My name is Tay Hodden, and I am living with Crohn's disease. I was diagnosed in April 2015, and I've been living with it now for about a year and a half. I created this blog so that many people who don't know about Crohn's disease and other invisible diseases, which invisible diseases are basically any disease or any ailment that someone may have that you can't see just by looking at them, but it does affect their lives and it is something that's serious. This isn't a swan song or this isn't someone's sad story. This is a story about everyone, a story of celebration about their lives as they continue going on, because I may have Crohn's, but it doesn't change who I am, not if I let it. I was told when I was diagnosed with Crohn's that I should take a medical leave and come back to school when I might have a better chance of doing it. And I might have a better chance of completing everything, but I chose not to. I chose to go back to college after being in the hospital for 2.5 weeks and retrain myself to walk while I'm also having to go attend my classes. It was a hard decision that I had to make, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that I wasn't gonna let this new disease that became a part of my life affect who I am. I am about to be 20 years old, and I can say that my life has changed extremely in the past 4 years. And what are you currently living with?
I have polycystic ovary syndrome.
What is that?
Polycystic ovary syndrome is at its core a hormonal imbalance that is active usually in women between the ages of 30 and 50, so premenopausal women. I am 22 and I was diagnosed when I was 17 with it, which is pretty unusual. And there are lots of different symptoms that come with it. The name implies that there are lots of cysts within my ovaries, most of which are benign, I've discovered, which is not always the case. But it was not discovered and diagnosed until after one had ruptured, which was easily the most painful thing I'd ever experienced up until that point.
I'm technically living with lupus, or I'm living in the remission state of lupus. Around 10, I started going into kidney failure, and then I went to the hospital my family and I trying to diagnose what was happening. And after numerous tests and a kidney biopsy, we discovered that I was, in fact, dealing with lupus, the early stages of it, which is very lucky. And lupus is an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks your body. So in this case, my immune system was attacking my kidneys, forcing it into kidney failure. So the treatment was to first treat the kidneys, and also do the job of the kidneys, which is to clean the blood. So I had dialysis along with the chemotherapy. But the radiation treatment was to counteract my immune system's reaction to fighting off my kidneys. So it was a lot of essentially back and forth, like stop this, but do this.
What was it like being diagnosed with that at the age of 10?
I didn't really even understand what was happening. I just knew that at that time I had been in and out of the hospital a lot because I have asthma too, so I was very comfortable with being in the hospital at that point, but it didn't really set in, what it was that I was having or what it was that I was dealing with, because it was a life or death situation. Kidney failure is a serious thing. It didn't set in until my mom started crying. She was like, this is my fault. You know how parents are, they take the blame for something they couldn't possibly have prevented or controlled.
I've had stomach ulcers, I've had endoscopies done, I've had colonoscopies done. I've been diagnosed with a disease that I will have for the rest of my life. I've had to change my lifestyle, change what I eat, change my sleeping patterns, and I just had to change how I saw things, because this disease is something that I have to live with forever. So depression, which is something I also have suffered with, is something that can keep coming back up when I have to think about the fact that this isn't going away, this doesn't end, this is for the rest of my life. And even though I could live like that and choose to not keep going and to just give up and not want to fight or try. I chose not to do that. I chose to make a life for myself. I chose to find a reason to keep going.
My name is Maureen, and I'm currently living with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and anxiety, which go hand in hand.
And what's it like living with IBS and having anxiety as well?
Living with IBS is kind of awkward. I haven't had as many issues with it as I used to in the past. I've actually been doing pretty well. But basically, a year or two ago, everything would make my stomach hurt, anything that I ate. And I had to restrict myself from eating anything that was delicious because it all had things that would irritate my stomach. And anxiety makes IBS even worse because it is a nervous system disorder. So especially senior year of high school, it's when I got really, really sick because of the stress of going to college and SATs and whatnot. I ended up losing 20 pounds because I couldn't keep food down. So that is pretty much what IBS is like in a nutshell.
How's it been like having IBS?
It's been difficult because I didn't know that I had that until I went to like the dietitian and nutritionist when I was in my later teens. That it was kind of like, well, your diet and like your physical and mental health was not in the right place, and so it was kind of something that I did to myself, and so it's something that I can't go back on, and I can just only progress with it. Yeah.
What advice do you have to people who don't know about invisible diseases, or what do you feel they should know about invisible diseases?
That more people have them than you think. I mean, from looking at me at first glance, you wouldn't think I had any kind of problem because it is internal. But just to be conscientious of, people have all kinds of diseases that you're not aware of, and just being sensitive and educating yourself and not judging people. Because for me with IBS, a lot of the time I would have to run to the bathroom after eating anything, and people would judge that and just be like, oh, gross, and it made me feel really ashamed when it wasn't anything I could control. I didn't choose to have IBS. So just being sensitive and educating yourself and trying to get to know people who have these invisible diseases, if they're willing to share, and asking them questions is probably the best way to neutralize any awkwardness.
They plague you every day, and just because they're not visible to the human eye doesn't mean that they don't exist. And it could be something as irritable bowel syndrome to something of like diabetes, or it's within the spectrum of kind of these syndromes and disorders that affect your body and the way that you function in a day-to-day. Yeah.
Don't assume that anyone has anything easy, I think. Because it's like this is something that I've had to deal with and had to live with I think we're coming up on 6 years I've had this now, or knowingly have had it. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean something isn't there. It's like the big thing. And I know like that's the whole point of this.
We can do anything we want to do, depending on the limitations that come with the disease that we're talking about. But for the most part, we can do all the same things, and we're not handicapped unless we are handicapped. And we should stop coming up with these ideas for saying that we are like less than others.
Autoimmune shits, they will fuck you up, essentially. We're all dealing with our own battles, hidden or not, we're all dealing with our own battles.
I would like people to know that the fact that people have these illnesses doesn't mean that they are weak in any way. Even though they have these issues, I feel that they are considered the strongest people because they are living through this. and they're not leaving this tear down their attitudes towards people or towards life. They're actually living.
I think people should know about having an invisible disease is if for some reason I'm feeling ill because of my invisible disease, to accept that and not ask too many questions.
So you have a twin brother.
I
Was
do.
he diagnosed too?
He was diagnosed around the time I went into remission. His lupus started flaring out, and we are learning how to fight it. With me, we caught it early enough where we were able to stop the flare up. So we caught it early enough to like stop it in its track and just watch it for flare ups. But with him, they're suppressing it. They're not really letting it run its course. So he's constantly dealing with flare ups and constantly dealing with issues from UV rays and skin irritation and fatigue because of it.
So what's that like, having to watch someone you know and love, and also basically have lived your whole life with, go through what you went through?
Well, it's hard, of course. But right now, where we are in our, I guess, collegial careers, I don't really see him that often. He also lives with our father where I live with our mother. So, again, another degree of separation. I don't see him. But when I do see him, it's very jarring to see his skin, see that it's darker and obviously being affected by factors that, you know, you had once dealt with or don't have to think about dealing with now. You know, it's hard. You try your best to do everything you can and impart as much information as you can. Yeah, it's hard. Well, with my brother, he's dealing with, so with lupus, you can have lupus in a lot of different places. With me, it was my kidneys. With him, it's affecting his kidneys as well as his skin. So there are these dark spots growing on him. Not growing on him, but like, they pop up, these blotches. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with the individual.
It's like severe eczema.
Yeah, but there's no texture, there's just a discoloration. And it just freaks people out when they see something out of normal.
What has your grandfather having myeloma done to your family? Or has it changed anything about how you guys think or how you guys choose to eat foods or go about living?
We don't talk about it much, but at the same time, it affects the way we spend our time. You know, he's very religious, and he believes that when he passes away, that his spirit is gonna be in heaven. So he constantly reminds us that he's getting down in age. He has health issues, but it's not like any of them are not like fatal to his life, you know, detrimental. But at the same time, he reminds us that we need to do the right things in life. You know, he teaches us a lot of life lessons because he knows that his time on earth is not going to be as long as ours. So he encourages us to spend our time wisely, you know, because we have this one life to live. So I think it has affected us positively, you know.
What has not talking about it done for you? Or how do you feel about the fact that you guys don't talk about the invisible disease?
Since we don't talk about it much, I don't want to say it doesn't have much significance, but it doesn't overpower our lives, you know. He definitely doesn't want us to feel like this is something that we need to be burdened by, because he is a strong man, and he definitely reminds us of that, not through his words but through his actions and his attitudes towards his illness.
because I have IBS doesn't mean I can't have a social life.
Hi, I'm Emma Bilderback, and just because I have polycystic ovary syndrome does not make me less of a woman.
My name is Prince Anthony Hall, and just because I have diabetes does not mean I can't be a successful actor.
Hi, I'm Victoria, and just because I have irritable bowel syndrome doesn't mean that I can't function like a regular human being.
My name is Monet Green, and just because my grandfather has a form of cancer doesn't mean he's not the strongest man that I know.
My name is Martin Lewis, and I have been living with lupus. And just because you're living with an invisible disease does not mean you're invisible.
My name is Maureen, and just because I have IBS and anxiety doesn't mean I am any less capable of awesomeness.
I'm Tay Hodden, and just because I have Crohn's disease doesn't mean my dreams have to end.